We found Ponte Vida through a choir trip from our college worship choir. In 2008, we visited Ecuador. We came to Ponte Vida. Whitney, a Far-Flung member, she connected with this little boy named Paul. And he was 7 years old. He just stole her heart. And we started partnering with them in 2011 as Far-Flung Tin Can. And Whitney would always send me pictures from that 2008 trip. And she said, please find Paul, see how he's doing. Is he still coming to the program? And every year I'd come, every trip, I'd ask Lolly, and she didn't recognize the kid. And so in 2017, Whitney came on a trip, and it was her mission to find Paul. Paul was 16 now, and he was in drug rehab. It had been 9 years since Whitney had seen him as a 7-year-old. Now he's a 16-year-old, and we get there, and he doesn't recognize her at first, and we start showing him the pictures and start talking about it, and he just couldn't believe that she remembered him. Gary was there, and we encouraged him in his faith and encouraged him for his future, and we left. And here we are 2.5 years later, and he's on the bus with us. He had been handing out gifts and working with the kids. I didn't even know he was on the bus. I asked Franklin, I said, hey, how's your brother doing? Is he out of rehab? Yeah, he's on the back of the bus. So it comes up. We called Whitney, and she is just in tears. She can't believe that he is there, that she's talking to him, that he's out of rehab. He was so encouraged, again, that someone thought of him, someone from so far away thought of him. And she encouraged him that she keeps his picture in her phone so that she's always praying for him. She looks at it every week. She feels like she has a son in Ecuador. And we tell him these things, and he goes to the back of the bus, and one of the tutors from Ponte Vida, and over a course of 2.5 hours on the bus, he gives his heart to God. When we get to Ponte Vida, they tell us the good news, and he's just so excited to tell me too. And so we pray over him and love on him and tell him that he doesn't have to follow this path in drugs, and the easy path of Atacucho is a really sad path, and it starts at a really young age, and we let him know like that doesn't have to be the path he takes. And just you could just see the smile from looking back at 3 different images we have of him. From him as a 7-year-old, as a kid, his innocence was still there intact. And then visiting him in rehab at his lowest point where he wanted to change, but he just didn't know how to get out. And seeing that, and then seeing after he's accepted Christ and he's heard that encouragement and he has seen that there is a brighter future. It's almost like seeing him at age 18, accepting Christ. It's like seeing him at his innocence again. And it makes sense because he's been reborn. He is living a life fresh and anew again. And that is one of my favorite things to see happen, that only God can do, to see that transformation happen and see that hope. Ponte Vida has a church, and Pastor Mendoza, Lali's father, pastors it on Sundays, and Tobin was asked to preach on Sunday, and he did an awesome job. He preached on making room, and it was an awesome service. A lot of people came down for prayer, and it's so funny that he preached on making room because the church has outgrown the church, and people were packed into the church sanctuary, and people were overflowed onto the balcony, and Lali's saying we don't have enough room for everybody anymore. So where I'm sitting right now is a balcony outside the church. The next time we're here in July, this is going to be part of the sanctuary. We are expanding the sanctuary for them, and so they're going to be able to put about another 50 people in here. So I'm excited to come back here in 6 months and see this as a sanctuary.